Thank you for joining me, Maureen McGuire, on behalf of F2 today. Fresa Fortaleza, or F2, was dreamed up by a coalition of growers, nurseries, and researchers in 2019. Together, we want to build a system that delivers premium genetics to farmers in Mexico. When Dr. Steve Knapp and his team at UC Davis, Glen Cole's here with us today, introduced 5 new varieties: UCD Moxie, UCD Royal Royce, UCD Valiant, UCD Victor, and UCD Warrior, we quickly recognized the value these new genetics would have for growers in Mexico. F2 works carefully with the university to trial material in Mexico and connect growers with varieties that best fit their region and growing needs. We protect and promote the 5 UC Davis varieties while maintaining a commitment to customer service. It starts with sourcing the best genetics, but that's just the beginning. When new material is made available, we are quick to begin trials at our research locations in Baja and Central Mexico. These experiments measure productivity and document best practices so we can help our growers develop variety-specific management plans to maximize quality and yields. As we move into the 2021 growing season, we want to foster connections between the strawberry breeding program at the University of California, Davis, and growers who will benefit from their work. I'm pleased to introduce Isaac Rainwater. Isaac is a strawberry licensing representative for the UC Davis Strawberry Program. He works out of the Office of Innovation Access and is responsible for the licensing and test agreements between UC Davis and the strawberry industry. Isaac works as a liaison between the university breeding program, nurseries, and growers to coordinate testing, licensing, and provide information about what is happening with the breeding program. Isaac has been with the strawberry program for 5.5 years, but has been involved in California agriculture for over 15 years. Previously, he was a production manager at Tree Nursery in Northern California and spent 7.5 years before that working at Foundation Plant Services at UC Davis. I'm also joined by Glen Cole. Glen has spent the last 32 years in the seed industry working on agricultural research. His experience has spanned the breeding and development of many crops, including alfalfa, wheat, melons, tomatoes, peppers, and sunflower. However, his career focused most on development and testing of sunflower inbreeds and hybrids for the oilseed product markets in North and South America, Europe, and Australia. He has a particular interest in the identification and incorporation of valuable traits from wild species into the domesticated crop of interest. Genetic diversity is a critical component to any breeding program, and creatively implementing proper strategies to capture the value of that diversity is the challenge he likes to solve the most. Glen brings his skills and passion to the strawberry breeding program at UC Davis to build upon the great legacy of work done by the previous researchers that built the program into what it is today. I want to thank both of you for being here today as we ensure safe and socially distant access to important insights about your program.
Thanks, Maureen. We're happy to both be here via Zoom and talk about the UC Davis breeding program. We got the new varieties, they're now available in Mexico. And then we can also talk a little bit about what is coming in the future. We're especially excited to be working with you, the F2 team, in commercializing our newest varieties in Mexico, as well as working together to get the test plots up and running in the different regions where you're working. So thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. It's great to be here. It's a rainy day, so it's nice to take advantage of the Zoom time. And unfortunately, we can't make it to Mexico, so this is a good alternative. And when Steve and I came on board in 2015, after the retirement of the previous breeders, we had a set of germplasm to evaluate and identify value for. And this set of 5 products that we've talked about were a result of us testing that material. And so we started that testing process in 2016, and then ultimately commercialized those 5 varieties in 2019. As far as our testing in Mexico goes, that effort has just started. with last year's trial in 2019-20 in Baja in San Quintin. And then we've initiated the testing of these varieties and more, which I'll talk about later, in central Mexico here this past summer. It's planned in August, and we'll get trial results this coming season. So we're really excited about that because that's a little bit of a different environment, whereas Baja California generally tends to mimic similar conditions in Southern California. So the 5 varieties that we released, 3 of those varieties are day neutral, and those are UCD Valiant, UCD Royal Royce, and UCD Moxie. And then the other 2 varieties were short day varieties, typically grown in the southern part of our growing region in California. Those short day varieties are UCD Victor and UCD Warrior. And, you know, all 5 were released to kind of address particular needs for the growers in California. And now we're getting them out and tested about in other parts of the world to see how they are adapted to those growing regions. A lot of the regions around the world where strawberries are grown are very environmentally very similar. There may be challenges in each particular environment for different reasons. And hence is why we want to test and identify the response of those varieties in these other different regions. So we're really excited about the opportunity that A&W provides to be able to provide that testing and give us that knowledge and ability to understand these varieties and their adaptiveness across the different growing zones. So as far as the 3 day neutral varieties go, UCD Valiant is an earlier yielding and flowering day neutral variety. And the day neutral varieties will flower throughout the year and tend to be more even in their response to flowering and fruit production. Whereas your short day can have spikes of yield based on their flowering and the temperature, their reaction to temperature. And so they're used in different ways. And in California, a lot of the market regions grow the day neutrals because you have an extension of fruit production from anywhere from January to the following November. If you have the right conditions and you can grow those varieties. So how those will work in Mexico will yet to be seen. But one of the advantages of Valiant is that it is earlier flowering and responsive. General tendency is day neutrals that in a winter production mode would come on a little bit later. So we're looking for things that extend that harvest period and do start to flower earlier. Valiant is one of those. And so we've been able to experience that. And we have 1 year of testing in Baja. We've seen that. And we have another round of testing going on this season. And again, the first look of that particular variety in central Mexico. So Royal Royce is a medium early flowering day neutral. Comes on a tad later than Valiant, but still early compared to a lot of the traditional day neutrals and in relationship to, in particular, Monterey, which is a big product in the market. San Andreas, which a lot of growers in Mexico may know, is also another variety that tends to flower a little bit early. So more along the lines of Valiant. So we're trying to provide that type of product in the product mix of our day neutrals. Moxie, as far as the day neutrals go, is a later producing day neutral, more in the tradition of like a Monterey. And one of the aspects that we are really focused on with the UCD program as we move forward with our own crosses and product development selection is the disease resistance of the material that we're releasing. One of the big diseases that we've got in particular that's taking off in California is Fusarium. So that's a big focus of our program, is identifying genetics that will provide that resistance. So having said that, Moxie is one of those products. So we had some products in the pipeline that came from the previous breeders, and we wanted to focus and move forward the products that have Fusarium resistance. Coming forward, all of our breeding effort is really focused on providing only resistant selections for that particular disease. And I'll talk a little bit later about what we're doing to do that. But just to stay focused on the 5 products here, that kind of highlights the 3-day neutrals. All of these products are high yielding and significantly higher yielding than what's currently been in the market. And so yield is always a very important component to the grower's equation. And, you know, and one of the other aspects that we are looking at is any other characteristics of the plant that can help with the management of the crop. 2 of these products, the UCD Royal Royce and the UCD Moxie, both are day neutrals that during the summer growing season do not, or throughout the whole growing season, berry growing season, don't produce a lot of runners. And that specifically is important because Monterey is a significant component of the acres in California. And Monterey has a significant amount of runner production during the winter, especially in the winter, spring growing time. And so it's a significant cost for growers to have to trim those runners. So that is something we promoted with those products. And it's really important. It's a very big cost savings. Every grower is focused on labor costs that are involved in the production of their products. And so that was another big proponent of those 2 particular varieties. And then to segue to the 2 short day varieties, and we're looking at potential replacements for Fronteras. Fronteras is a nice variety that performs well in California. I think it also performs very well in Mexico. We had some initial complaints that we heard when we came on board about maybe some post-harvest quality issues. And so that was something we wanted to address when we released both UCD Victor and UCD Warrior. UCD Victor is a similar maturity, maybe a tad later than Fronteras in its production mode. And but in all of our trials over the last 5 years has outperformed Fronteras for yield at the end of the season. It tends to come on, like I said, a little bit later, but when it comes on really strong. It's a very nice fruit. It's a firmer fruit. And so that was to address the post-harvest quality issues. And so, and a very nice flavored berry. And so it also is Fusarium resistant. Both UCD Victor and UCD Warrior are Fusarium resistant. And that particular disease really became more pronounced early on in the southern growing regions of California, where these short days are grown. And so again, back to that strategy of trying to provide products with that disease resistance. UCD Victor performed very well for us in our trial last year in Baja. And so I believe A&W is growing some acreage this year to look at that product. And so we're very interested to see how it performs again this year. Warrior, on the other hand, is a medium early variety, comes on earlier than both Fronteras and Victor. And UCD Warrior has an even stronger disease resistance package because it has moderate resistance to macrophamina, which is another significant disease that can show up in stressful environments, warmer stressful environments. And which is starting to rear its head in Southern California. So that's a big deal. And that's why we released UCD Warrior. It doesn't yield as well as Fronteras or Victor, but we wanted to provide that option for growers, especially in areas where that disease is becoming more problematic. And of course, as we look at organic culture systems, are you guys hearing me?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
The Warrior in organic culture systems where that disease has become problematic is valuable. And so we hope to provide that opportunity for other growers in other regions. So that's the 5 new varieties. We again, as I indicated, we're going to get our first year's worth of data coming from central Mexico, really a different growing region, further south, more inland, different soils. So we're really excited to see what kind of information comes as a result of the trials that we're doing with F2 Fresa Fortaleza.
Great. Thank you so much, Glenn. Isaac, how are these varieties being adopted in California and abroad?
That's a good question, Maureen. These varieties have been grown in commercial plots in California, over the past 2 years since they've been released. And California growers are still learning about them, but so far from what we're seeing, we're having really positive results. And let me start with the first, the 3-day neutrals that Glenn was talking about. Over the 2020 growing season, we really saw some amazing yields with the UCD Royal Royce, UCD Moxie, and UCD Valiant. UCD Royal Royce produced just under 98,000 pounds per acre. UCD was close behind with 96,000 pounds. UCD Valiant was also not too far behind with just over 92,000 pounds per acre, which on average is about 15 to 20,000 pounds an acre higher than Monterey, which, as you know, is the standard for California day neutral growers. And those numbers, coupled with the decrease in runners, as Glenn was referring to with UCD Moxie and UCD Royal Royce, make them, appealing option for growers both in Santa Maria and Watsonville, Salinas area. Outside of California, we did some test plots in North Carolina last year with, I think it was 2 of the 3-day neutrals, UCD Royal Royce and UCD Valiant. And we also had UCD Victor and Warrior as well. And it was really UCD Royal Royce that the growers in North Carolina, really leaned towards. They were able to grow and produce fruit for a much longer period over the season. They're traditionally still growing Camarosa and Chandler from the UCD program. So in terms of yield, UCD Royal Royce was, leaps and bounds ahead of those two. And then, factor that in with being able to produce later in the season, as Royce has shown that it can tolerate some of the warmer temperatures and higher humidity. They really, jumped on that one. And they were really, this year, because they're commercially available this year, they were wanting to get their hands on as many as they could. Unfortunately, the nurseries are still somewhat limited, so they couldn't get a lot, but they were really, really excited about Royal Royce on the East Coast. And, in terms of flavor, that was also something they were like, it's more than acceptable for their markets and their conditions. So, we're really excited. That wasn't, necessarily an area we thought, Royal Royce would be, ideal for, but, it turns out that, it's, it's working out for them. Let me talk about UCD Moxie a little bit. It's had a little bit less commercial exposure, but the high yields with UCD Moxie and the fusarium resistance that Glenn was mentioning earlier make it a really interesting option for growers in the Watsonville Salinas area, as they're starting to see a few spots pop up with more and more fusarium issues. And I think Moxie will be a really good option in those areas. And then UCD Valiant has proven itself to be a really good candidate for the organic markets. The plants are really vigorous. They have really big, nice sized fruit. And when you get them into the organic growing regimes, which are less inputs, less chemicals, the plant is really able to perform well. And as more growers get experience with these varieties, I definitely see them gaining more and more popularity in the California growing areas. The short days, which Glen, was talking about, they've been a little bit slower to catch on in California, due to Fronteras kind of being the standard for the industry. But UCD Victor really they have the good post-harvest characteristics. The fruit is firmer than Fronteras. The plants are a little more compact and slightly higher yields over the season. We've grown those in California the last couple of years, but we've also done some trials in Spain and Greece. And from the early indications of those, they're small plots, but the growers really like Victor, UCD Victor, and I think they're really gonna jump on that one. And it's going to be in the next couple of years when they start doing bigger plots and growing some commercial plots, we're really going to see, what impact those are going to have in that region. And then last, UCD Warrior, they've also been growing in those same test plots. And as Glen was mentioning, it doesn't have the yields of a Fronteras or UCD Victor, but it has the best disease package. It's resistant to Fusarium and moderately resistant to both Phytophthora and Macrophyllina. And that's really going to open up some areas where you can't grow Fronteras and you can't grow UCD Victor. And it's going to be interesting to see as growers get their hands on these in different parts of the world, how UCD Warrior works and how, it adapts to these different areas. And I think it can really be a game changer for some growing regions. So I think that's about it with the commercialization.
Just to kind of bring it, back to our growers' perspectives, what do you guys think from this 5-variety set is the most exciting for Central Mexican growers to try?
Yeah, I think we don't know for certain yet because we haven't really done any testing. So we'll get our first testing results this coming season. My feeling is that UCD Victor will probably show to perform very well there. Again, another traditional short day type. And I don't know what to say about the 3-day neutrals. I mean, obviously you're growing in a different time frame in Central Mexico than you do in Baja. And so I really am expecting Royal Royce to probably perform very well there for a day neutral type. And again, time will tell as the data comes in. But I think, one of the other aspects of Victor that we didn't really mention here is, again, it is a very dark green plant that also has done well in organic culture systems in California. And again, in, growing environments where you have limitation on inputs, that variety has performed very well. Compact plant, and so I'm really expecting that to do well there. And we'll see how the trials come through this year. One of the other interesting aspects of that testing is that, and as we do future testing, it's with plug produced plants versus bare root plants. And so the testing that we're doing this year has both bare root and plug produced plants in that trial. And so, and we know that there's a difference in reaction of plug produced plants and how they respond and how fast they start flowering and produce fruit. So we'll be getting that data this year, and that'll be really interesting to learn.
Similarly, I know you guys are we're on our second year of testing in Baja. Is there anything specific coming out of that or any things you'd like to put our Baja growers' eyes on?
Yeah, I think there's 2 varieties that we're seeing from the trials and the plots we've been growing there the last couple of years. First, UCD Victor, we talked about that one quite a bit. It's a very similar yield to Fronteras, which, is a lot of acres grown in Baja right now, Fronteras. So, when you have similar production, slightly better fruit quality, or even marginally better fruit quality with, the firmer fruit, better post-harvest characteristics, and the bricks on average is slightly higher than Fronteras. So I think for the growers in Baja, it's definitely something they should take a look at and really work with and see how it fits into their growing systems. And then for the day neutrals, we're getting really good results with UCD Valiant. We only have a single year of data with Valiant in Baja in the trials, but it is done very well, and you get really early production. So similar to San Andreas, which is a day neutral in Baja, where you get the early yield and the early production. I think Valiant is going to be a really good candidate to fit in that system as well, with growers getting early yields. And it's definitely a variety we're going to be watching closely over this season, and we're excited to see the yield data as it comes in.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, it's really important with day neutrals. The general tendency is day neutrals prefer to require higher chill hours when they're grown. And what we found with both Valiant and Royal Royce is that UCD Valiant performs very well with very low chill. So as we've moved plants into the testing that we're doing in Baja, they're being dug early, and so they don't necessarily require all that chill to perform well. So that's another important factor.
So Glenn, it's clear how important these trials are, and F2's been trialing about 30 pre-selections in central Mexico and Baja, and there's some really exciting material coming. What's your current focus in terms of attributes for your new selections?
Well, one of the things that we really wanted to do when we made our first releases was to also have an early short day variety, and we had one that was in the queue, and we dropped it in the end because it had slightly, it didn't have soft fruit, but it would have fruit that would get thumbprints on it when you picked it. And so it yielded really well, it was early, but we pulled it back. And so our big focus right now is identifying some really nice high yielding early varieties to go with a complement of what we currently have. The other aspect that and I mentioned it earlier, is the big focus on disease resistance. That's being Fusarium, Macrophromina, Verticillium, and Phytophthora. And of course, that doesn't occur in all the different growing zones. And you're not going to capture a variety necessarily with all of the greatest resistance of all four of those diseases. But for Southern California, and probably also for Mexico, I think in Baja, the Macrophromina and Fusarium resistance is probably going to be important. And again, especially the Macrophromina being something that is it's a heat and drought stress induced. So they're in environments where that could be a problematic. I don't know so much about the central Mexico region yet. As I've done a single tour through the region, there are a lot of different soil types. I anticipate Phytophthora may be a greater issue there in some areas. So that's yet to be determined. But, and so again, having a product like the UCD Warrior, where you've got a better Phytophthora moderate resistance mode is good. But so as far as the things that we've got in the system, almost all of the material that we're testing is Fusarium resistant, and we're looking at different levels of resistance for some of the other products that we've got in test there. But one of the other aspects that I should note is that we're putting a big emphasis on fruit quality and taste. And so higher sugar levels, we know that sugar and yield are negatively correlated. You got high sugars, you're going to have lower yield. So it's a fine line, and we're trying to improve the sugar content, improve the consumer experience of flavor, and that's through aromas and sugars, and keep that in a package that's still firm enough and yields enough. So that's something that's coming through with all of the new selections. And then I should say, so we've got this commercial project, but we've got a lot of academic work behind the scenes here. So we've got a lot of students that are doing the genetics of these disease resistances, and we're employing new tools to be able to bring that resistance to fruition in our products. And that may mean marker assisted selection, like we can do now with fusarium. I'm able to put that fusarium gene, resistance gene, into all of the selections that coming forward, because I have a marker tool and I can go select these things without having to do a disease trial. I can take the DNA and I can say, these 100 selections right here have fusarium resistance. That expands my ability to find things that yield well, that taste good. And so we're starting to employ those tools. That's a simple tool. Some of these resistances are more complex and we have to take a different path, but we've got students that are working on that. So a student identified this gene, we identified markers, and then we release that information to the public. And so other breeding programs can then take advantage of that science that's being done, again, behind the scenes of the commercial breeding program. There's a lot of research going on. And so Steve directs all that. We've got all these PhD students that are working on this. We're working on macrophermina. That's a big project for us right now, is the macrophermina resistance. We've got some new, really exciting genetics coming forward. As you had talked about my bio to begin with, I like bringing in genetic diversity from exotic sources. That can be wild species that we have at our, that we can deploy, that may be old varieties. And so we're looking at old varieties for those disease resistance genes, for flavor genes. And that's another big research program that we're doing in collaboration with other scientists at the university, is looking at aroma compounds that will enhance the whole consumer appreciation aspect of the fruit. And so we're really excited about all that research. It takes time for all that to come, excuse me, to fruition. And so that's what's in those 30.
Great. We're really excited. I know for us, we really are excited about the idea that we could commercially produce something that makes the consumer feel like they've picked it from their grandmother's backyard. All those memories that come up for people when they get to indulge in strawberries. So we're really excited to be part of the supply chain that brings that to market. Isaac, what's coming out of the program from your perspective that our growers should keep an eye on?
Well, the breeding program and, our team, the licensing team, we're happy to report that we are very, very close to finalizing the patent applications, and we're actually releasing 2 new strawberry varieties here in the coming weeks. These 2 varieties are what the breeding team has identified as extreme day neutrals, but commonly in California, they're referred to as the summer plant varieties. They fit into the Portola production windows. In California, it means planting in early summer and picking fruit through the fall and early winter in Santa Maria and Oxnard. And these 2 varieties do have names, but unfortunately, I can't disclose them yet, as things are not completely finalized with the patent filings. So we're gonna, still refer to them by their code names of 17, ED, and 15, and 17, ED, and 19. And it's easiest for me to describe their characteristics by comparing them to Portola, as that is the industry standard in terms of this production window. And fruit size, 17, ED, and 15 is similar in size on average as Portola, and 17, ED, and 19 has bigger fruit throughout the growing season. Based on our trials so far, we're finding that ED and 15 does better, further south in the state, the Oxnard growing areas, and ED and 19 performs better in the north in Santa Maria. Both varieties have similar production totals across the season as Portola, but the percentage of marketable fruit is higher. So you're looking at 10 to 15% higher marketable fruit from what's grown on the plants. And that's, a definite advantage to the growers, as there's, less time they have to spend culling fruit. However, the biggest advantage of both of these varieties is that they have much better flavor than Portola. The Brix averages are about a full point higher across the season. And, it's going to be nice to get a good tasting variety into that, production season. And then in terms of disease resistance, EDN19 has macrophamina resistance, but unfortunately both varieties are susceptible to fusarium. So growers that, are in regions or know that they have fusarium issues in their field, they have to be careful in growing these varieties. But, as far as Mexico goes, both of these varieties are being trialed this year in Mexico, in Baja as well as Central Mexico. And needless to say, we are very excited about getting these varieties out and look forward to seeing the results from the trials in Mexico this season. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit into the production windows for the growers in the different areas. Both varieties, will be available exclusively to California growers for the first 2 years. But after the 2-year delay that, we give exclusivity to California growers, they're going to be available widely in Mexico starting in January of 2023. But, we'll be doing trials there over the next couple of years. I don't know if, was there anything you wanted to add about those, Glenn? Anything I missed?
Well, one thing in particular is the firmness of those fruit for both varieties is firmer than Portola. And again, that's a focus of all the things that we bring forward. If we can bring firmness, which allows for shipping across lots of regions, with the sweetness and the flavor, that's what we're going to do, and general tendency is you tend to have more flavorful things, but they're soft, but you can't ship them. And so we got to have shippable product.
Great. I know we're really excited because I feel like we've got a head start for our Mexican growers on these new varieties and the pre-selections coming out. So I really feel like we're going to be able to give them a lot of information as these new varieties from UC Davis are commercialized. Be able to show them the test plots and take people through the data. So I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing over there. Where can people find out more about your programs and follow your work?
So the breeding program does have a website, and you can find out more information about what the breeders are working on. You can read some of their recent publications and, look at some of the research the program has been involved with, and also learn more about the breeding team, who's on it, and what everybody's role is. And that can be found at Knapp, Steve Knapp's last name, KNAPP, .plantsciences.ucdavis.edu. And then as far as the commercialization aspect and information regarding the release varieties and who to contact about, growing the varieties or getting licensing information, you can visit the Innovation Access website. And that can be found at www.research.ucdavis.edu/IA/IA/industry/strawberry. And if that's too complicated to follow, I believe the F2 website has links to both of those on there, so you can access them that way as well.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we have links everywhere where the video is posted as well, so people don't have to try to keep up with the long HTML addresses. Is there anything else you wanted to share, Glenn?
No, I think just really appreciate the time to share some information today. And it's nice to see your website where you are sharing links and sharing the information that you're producing, and really have enjoyed working with your team, and look forward to future developments and seeing how these varieties perform in those environments.
I want to thank both of you guys for joining us here today. I really learned a lot, and I know our growers are really excited to test these varieties and see how they perform in these unique and important locations. So thank you guys for being part of making those connections in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It's,
you're welcome, and
good.
look forward to getting opportunities to walk the field with growers in the future.
Mhm. F2 is hoping to host you in person at our trials next year. This year, we will be releasing photos and videos of our trials on our Facebook page, LinkedIn page, and of course, our website, fresafortaleza.com, where you can also find links to our social media. Thank you for watching our first video. If you have any comments or questions, please comment below or send your feedback to contact@fresafortaleza.com. If we have enough questions, we might be able to convince our esteemed guests to join us again. Thank you for watching.